What's up, Gould Miners? Today, we welcome Mark Podolsky to the program. Mark, who's otherwise known as the Land Geek, has spent over the last 25 years investing in raw land and is now considered one of the country's foremost experts on raw land investments. And with over 6,500 transactions under his belt, he certainly knows a thing or two. And in this episode, he shares a lot of gold nuggets with the audience. We kick off the episode by talking about his early days as an investment banker and the journey that took him from being a full-time investment banker to being a full-time raw land investor. Later on in the episode, Mark dives deep into the land acquisition process, from the systems he has to the tools that he uses and the strategy that he deploys. Mark truly puts his entire process out there, soup to nuts. And then we conclude the episode with Mark stressing the importance of finding a mentor whenever you're embarking on a new journey, whether it be land investing or any other investment journey. He really stresses the importance of finding a great mentor that you can latch onto and learn from. Mark is a wealth of knowledge. I learned a ton from this episode. And if you're just getting started in your real estate investing journey and you're looking for a great gateway drug to real estate investing, this could very well be it. Mark puts it all out there, soup to nuts, and gives some very actionable strategies that you could deploy over the next 30 days to get your investing journey started. So you really owe it to yourself to give this one a listen. Without further ado, everyone, let's welcome to the program, Mark Podolsky.
The Gold Mine Podcast.
Mark, welcome to the Gold Mine.
Danny Gould, thanks so much for having me. Big fan.
He said my name right. I love it. Most people don't get it right. Oh man. Hey, I'm excited to chat with you, man, because I think that you this isn't the first time I've had someone on the show that is, that's a land investor. I've actually had a few of you guys on here before, but you definitely have a unique background. I mean, you got started in the investment banking world, right? And a lot of people have this notion that like, wow, investment banking, it's like amazing thing. And like, once you get there, you can go so many other places. But you, of all places after iBanking, you're like, hey, let me get into land investing, right? So walk me through that journey, because I'm sure there's a story there.
Yeah. I mean, gosh, it's so crazy because I was so miserable at my job in a 45-minute commute to work and back. I was micromanaged. I had no control. You could put together a deal, and at the last minute, you're looking at a six-figure, payday, and the numbers go down for that quarter, and the private equity group pulls out. Because I was specializing in mergers and acquisitions mid-market with private equity, and so I really hated it. And my firm hires this guy, and he's telling me there's a side hustle. He's buying up raw land, pennies on the dollar, at tax deed auctions. He's flipping them online. He's making 300% on his money. And I'm looking at companies all day long. A great company, great. Has 15% EBITDA margins, free cash flow. Average company's 10%. And I'm looking at companies all day long, less than 10%. So of course I don't believe him. And I go to New Mexico with him. I got $3,000 saved up for car repairs. I do exactly what he tells me to do. I buy 10 half-acre parcels, and the average price is $300 each. I flipped them online. They all sell for the average price of $1,200 each. It worked. So I took all that money and I went to another auction. This is where in Arizona, which is where I live. And again, it's 2,000. There's no one in that room. And I'm buying up lots of acres for nothing. So I sell all that land, and I made over $90,000 cash. So I go to my wife, she's pregnant. I said, honey, I'm going to quit my job and become a full-time land investor. And she's like, absolutely not. So I said, okay. So it took 18 months for the land investing income to exceed the investment banking income. And then I quit, and I've been doing it full time ever since.
It's amazing, man. It's difficult. And it's actually something that I'm doing right now where I'm switching, I'm transitioning from 10 years of residential real estate, right, into, capital raising and hotel investments. Mm-hmm. And, it's so difficult to make that transition. So what did you do to make that possible? Because I don't believe that many people can do what you did, right? Like it's exceptionally hard. Like back in my residential real estate days, I had 35 agents working for me, and I recruited like crazy, man. But the majority of the recruits that I brought in could just never let go of that lifeline. they never made it. And so what was the secret to that? Like what do you think you did differently that was like, that allowed you to kind of like successfully make that transition?
Yeah, I'm really risk averse. So I kind of walked through it in my own head. I was like, okay, let's just kind of go through this. Like, what's the worst case scenario? Well, okay, worst case scenario is I'm buying this land, I can't sell it. And well, okay, that's not so bad because it's just a piece of paper. No one's gonna get mad at me. I'm not, junking up the garage with a bunch of inventory, right? And I'm like, okay, well, if I can't sell it, I'm sure I can barter it. So maybe I'd get free haircuts or free dentistry. So, I could sleep well at night. Like, okay, the land has some intrinsic value. It's not going to zero. So I felt good about that. Then I'm like, okay, well, what if I can't make a living doing it? And it's just not going to support me and my family. Well, worst case scenario is I just got a job that was better than my last job. So I'm like, I might as well go for it because the worst case ain't so bad. And so that's really how I kind of thought about it, was just, kind of doing like a fear setting exercise. I'm like, well, if this fear happens, what's something I can do to, mitigate that if that happens? And so it really helped.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's a great way to frame it, right? It's a great way to frame it. And I think that, I think a lot of people are scared to take it, but even when they do take the jump, right? When they do make the leap, and kind of giving yourself permission to take that risk, to take that chance, there's still so many ways to fail right after that, right? So it's not like just taking the leap and then all of a sudden you made it. Like there's things that you did along the way that got you over the hump, right? It was that activation energy that kind of got you to the other side. So you say that was like an 18-month period for you, correct?
Yeah. It's so funny because, in our culture, there's failure. Even other countries, like, they applaud the effort and they're like, do it again. There's no really failure. It's like you're learning. And so to me, it's whatever I do, it's kind of like, it's either going to be a good time or a good story, but either way, I'm going to learn from it. And so it's, there really is no, it's kind of a mental hurdle I think people have in this limit. Like, well, I failed. Well, not really. You learned along the way. And what did you really lose in a sense, right? Maybe some time, but you're going to use that time anyways. But now you've learned something. You're productive with it. You went for it. You got some road rash you learned from. It just makes you better. So I think that's riskier actually not to take a risk and not to live your best life, because then you look back and you're like, I was young, I had energy, I had enthusiasm, and I didn't go for it. And at some point in life, as you get older, then you're really sort of calcified in a way. It gets harder and harder, I think, as that time goes by. Yeah,
I definitely agree with you. So it's a great perspective. And okay, so we get to the other side. You're starting to really hum along and whatnot. What was the overall or investment thesis, right, when you were first starting out here, right? Because you say, hey, I turned 3,000 into 12,000 in a couple of weeks or whatnot. Like, that seems very difficult to do, right? So I'm assuming that there's some sort of arbitrage that you were doing. I don't how were you adding value to the land, or were you kind of walk me through that strategy there?
Yeah. Okay. So let me use you as a case study. Now I'll just kind of walk you through it step by step. Yep. And this way the listeners can replicate it. So Danny, where do you live?
Silicon Valley, Bay Area.
Silicon Valley. Okay. So you've lost all complaining privileges, but that's okay.
Yeah.
So let's assume that you own 5 acres of raw land in Colorado, and you've owned it for a while, and now you're not paying your property taxes. So you're advertising 2 important things to me. Number one, you have no emotional attachment to the raw land. You're in Silicon Valley, property's in Colorado. And number 2, you're distressed in some weird financial way because you're not paying your property taxes. Right. As a result, and so you're not valuing the property in the same way either, right? So as a result, the county treasurer keeps sending you notices saying, Danny, if you don't pay your taxes, you're going to lose that property to a tax deed or tax lien investor. So all I'm going to do is look at the comparable sales on your 5-acre parcel for the last 12 to 18 months. I'll take the lowest comparable sale. Let's just use easy math and say it's $10,000. Then I'm going to divide by 4. This can give you what Warren Buffett would call a 300% margin of safety. So I'll send you an actual offer of $2,500.
Yeah.
Now you accept it. Because why? Because for you, $2,500 is better than nothing.
Sure.
Now in reality, 3 to 5% of people are going to accept my quote unquote top dollar offer. But now that you've accepted it, I have to go through due diligence or in-depth research. I have to confirm you still own the property. I have to confirm back taxes are only $200. I have to make sure that there's been no breaks in the chain of title, no liens or encumbrances. So I'll outsource this to my team. They're based in Jamaica, connected to an American title company. It costs about $11. Now, if I was investing, say, more than $5,000, I just closed traditionally through a title company, take no title risk. But it's only $2,500. I'll take a little bit of risk. We'll see if everything works out. And I'll send you a check for $2,300. I'll send the treasurer a check for $200 that owed free and clear. And now I'm going to make a cash flow like a rental home. And I'm going to sell it in 30 days or less. So Danny, I have a built-in best buyer. Do you know who it is? The neighbors. So I'm going to send out neighbor letters saying, hey, here's your opportunity. Protect your privacy. Protect your views. Know your neighbor. So oftentimes the neighbors will buy. Now, if they pass, I'll go to my buyer's list. The buyer's list passes, I'll go to a little website you may have heard of called Meta, the Facebook, buy-sell groups, the marketplace. And then I'll go to lands, landmoto.com, land.com, landandfarm.com, landflip.com, landsamerica.com, landwatch.com. These are platforms where people buy and sell raw land. But the secret is in the pricing. So all I'm going to do is ask for a $2,500 down payment. And then I'm making a car payment. See, $329 a month and 9% interest for the next 60 months. So I get my money out on the down payment, but I could go 6 to 10 months out. And now I'm getting $329 a month, 9% interest, Danny, no renters, no rehabs, no renovations, no rodents. And so because of that, I'm not dealing with a tenant, and I'm exempt from RESPA, the SAFE Act, and Dodd-Frank, all this onerous real estate legislation. So it's a simple game. Can we create enough land notes where our passive income exceeds our fixed expenses? Now we're working because we want to, not because we have to.
Yeah, I love that. And it's a similar strategy that I've heard before. Makes a lot of sense to me. So effectively you buy it for pennies on the dollar, right? Which makes sense, right? So that's where you're making the money.
Right. So we're making your money on the buy.
You're finding sellers in some very various form of distress. And at that point you turn around. You're not really adding any quote unquote value to the property. It sounds like you're not doing any sort of like entitlements or getting it shovel ready, nothing like that typically, right? You're just buying raw, selling raw. Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah.
See, think about it like this, like if I made you an offer for everything in your garage you're not using, 25, 30 cents a dollar, you'd probably be thrilled. And then I could flip it, 80 cents a dollar, 9 cents a dollar.
No, exactly. It's like a garage sailing, right? Like people like flipping whatever, right? Like it makes sense. Like somebody has a certain, like the owner, it's junk to them. They're not really using it. Doesn't really have a lot of value to them, but you understand how to extract the maximum value from it. And it sounds like, to your point, right? You're not really looking at this as hey, I'm going to flip this and like try and like 4X my money right away. I'm just going to bank all of these notes and stack them and, create, a steady flow of passive income through seller financing.
Yeah. Because cash doesn't really solve my time problem, right? Yes, so I want to solve my money and my time problems. And so passive income does both. And I think it's the antidote to financial insecurity, where no matter what happens to me or the market, I've got this money coming in every month. And so even on a default, let's say that there's defaults and people stop paying on their notes. Well, great, because I'm using a land contract. So there's no cost of foreclosure. They've lowered my cost basis. and I just resell it again. And now it's new inventory.
Yeah. What does that look like, by the way? I'm assuming you've had to foreclose on people before. What would the process look like for like a land deal like this?
So we use software called geekpay.io. It's a set it and forget it payment system. So if they're 30 days late in the software will notify them. It'll also automate a certified letter as well. And they have 35 days to cure their default. And then after 35 days, they've gone into default and we just resell the property.
Easy enough. It's
easy.
That's pretty simple. Yeah. Well, this is a very interesting concept. And like I said, this isn't the first time I've had someone on here. But every time I have someone on here, it makes more and more sense to me. Now, where do you primarily focus in? Right. Like, okay, so Danny, let's be honest. Somebody wakes up and thinks to themselves, boy, I'd like some raw land in Iowa. Unless you live in Iowa. So the biggest buyer pool is going to be the Sunshine States. So California, Florida, Arizona, New Mexico, Colorado, Texas, maybe Nevada, Northwest, Washington, Oregon. Beautiful parts of the Midwest are treed. So there's lots of inexpensive land in those areas. And imagine you're in Minneapolis, you're freezing, right? And you can afford this raw land. Maybe you go out there and use it recreationally, go camp, ATV, whatever you want. No restrictions. It's irresistible. Okay, so you're primarily focused in, the Sunshine States, as you call them. And walk me through your process. So you go through the county records. You're trying to identify people that are late on their tax statements. Primarily, it sounds like that's one of the that's your lowest hanging fruit. Once I've established a market, I'll mail everybody. I don't care, but I want to make sure that I've got a market, and that's my lowest hanging fruit. So the way it'll work is I'll go to a website like datatree.com or Zamplo.com. And I can get a list. Now, I can go straight to the county as well, but sometimes these older counties don't have great data. So I want to get the CSV file that I can put into my software, which is called lgmass.com. So I can upload that list and then it'll automate sending out those mailings. And then based on my response rate, because if it's under 3%, well, I've got to adjust those mailings. So the software can let me do it either by percentage or a dollar amount, so I can increase that offer. So I'm getting my response rate. Now, if I get more than a 5% response rate, I came in too high, and I've got to retrade and renegotiate that seller. I see. So you actually base your offer percentage off of the response rate that you're getting from the mailings. Correct. So I don't want to send out 1,000 mailings on the first go round. I want to do batches of like 20 to 30 a day so I can quickly pivot and the market can react to me quicker. I see. So so let's just use 1,000 as an example, right? Since it's a nice whole number. So every 1,000 mailings that you send out, typically how many contracts are you getting from that? So I'll get 1%. So that's 1%. So about 10 contracts. 10 deals. Yeah. 10 contracts. But then how many of those actually close? No, that's closing rate. So gotcha. People that respond will be 30 to 50. I'll close on, based on due diligence, about 1%. 1%. I'll like their property. Yeah. Yeah. Yep. Okay. That makes sense. Now, from the time that you acquire a property, right? What's the typical duration between the whole period, but from the time that you purchase and close on it to the time that you then sell it and close with the next buyer? Okay, so that process can vary, depending on the market. But I'd say that the entire process between mailing, getting responses back, closing with your seller, using Simplify to record your deed, owning the property, going through the marketing and sales process is about 6 to 8 weeks. It's not bad. That's actually a lot shorter than I thought you were going to say. Yeah, it's not bad. Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. Now, what are some of the disadvantages, right? Because it's not all sunshine and rainbows, right? There have to be some pitfalls here, right? So what are some of the cons against the drawbacks of this type of strategy?
Well, I think that when you're listening to it, you can wrap your head around the fact that everybody needs a place to live.
Sure.
And that's the great thing about real estate. Well, nobody needs a piece of raw land. But 99% we have in our lives, we don't need. We want. So there's a lust for land in this country. But what I'll find is that when people start, they're like, well, I don't want to buy this property that is in the middle of nowhere in rural Arizona, right? Well, that's because you're not the market. In the same way, like I don't eat McDonald's, but 1 billion people love them, right? And so I'd buy a McDonald's franchise, no problem, even though I don't like the food. And so a lot of times that's sort of the mental pitfall is, well, I don't like this property, so no one else will. The other is fear. So what will happen is they'll buy their first piece of property and they're like, okay, I'll stop deal. So I'm not buying any more property till I sell this one. Well, just as we were talking about, now you're losing out on 6 to 8 weeks. And so then you can make a chicken company has no chicken. So you don't want to do that either. But as far as like big issues, like in due diligence, right? Well, we're avoiding areas that would become like super fun sites, like environmental issues, because we're going to these sunshine states that are more rural. So Ohio, Pennsylvania, New Jersey, these big industrial areas, they could be in super fun states. So you have to go to a website like EPA.gov to make sure you're not buying in that area. But I would say that those are sort of the biggest issues that I see newbies are making are really fear-based issues.
There's so many different directions I could take it right now, but I think I totally hear that, right? Like fear, like the majority of the issues that kind of come up are fear-based, from a velocity standpoint, because I read somewhere, and correct me if I'm wrong here, but you've done over 6,500 land transactions in the last 20 years.
Correct.
Yeah. So that is approximately like what, 30 to 40 a year, right? On average? Or 300 to 400. 300 to 400. I'm like, no, my math is not mathing. Yeah.
Yeah. It's about 300. But so we're trying to do a deal a day.
Basically. Yeah. Okay. That's crazy. Wow. A deal a day. That is high velocity. That's incredible, man. That's incredible. So just out of curiosity, right? You've done this for 20 years. You've done 6,500 transactions.
Yeah, 25 years.
25 years. So how many notes do you currently have right now that you're like holding on to?
I think over 1,300 now.
1,300. That's insane. That's amazing, man.
Yeah.
That's really cool. Wow. 1,300 notes. That's insane. How do you keep organized? I mean, I feel like
software.
That's just, okay.
Software. Okay. Yeah. So we got really good systems, processes, software, automations.
Yeah.
But, between LG Pass, GeekPay.io, Airtable, we have that land manager. We got really good accounting systems and bookkeeping systems. That's how we're doing it.
Love it. And any employees, anyone that you have hired?
No employees. We use virtual assistants. So we have a team in Jamaica. We have a few Filipino virtual assistants as well. Yeah. But we're running lean and mean. We have an acquisition manager that manages that team. So,
that's incredible.
It's a machine.
Yeah. It sounds like it. Sounds like it, man. That's awesome. All right. So I want to ask you this, right? Because as a Californian, one of the things that I really I wouldn't do right now personally is invest in California. Yeah. But I heard you say California is one of the states. So what's drawing you over here? Like, what are the things that you see in the market here from a land perspective that maybe I don't necessarily see in the single family / multifamily sector?
Yeah. I mean, you're looking at, if I'm in San Jose, That's an inflated market. If I'm in LA, that's an inflated market. San Diego, it's an inflated market. But if I'm going to more rural California, and so these more rural counties, let's say an hour to 3 hours from the nearest city, and I'm making offers of value of 25, 30 cents a dollar, again, I'm making my money on the buy. So that's really why I'm looking at those areas. Now, is California my favorite state? No, it's not. For sure. But there are certain counties that I do like, and there's a good market for them.
So I'm really curious how you kind of came up with this 3 and 5% standard, right? Like no less than 3, no more than 5. How did that come about?
So it just kind of came out organically, where from day one, I started tracking the response rate because I knew, direct mail response is very, very low, but lots of people were accepting my offers. And so I was getting this data and just tracking it, and it just stayed consistent over the years where, okay, this is a good metric. Is it a perfect metric for every market? Not necessarily, right? There's some hotter areas, let's say in Florida, right? Well, I'm not dividing by 4 in some of these Florida counties. Maybe I'll divide by 3, when I make those offers. And that'll give me my 3 to 5% response rate. So that also sort of dictates my pricing as well. But it's better to have some metric going in than none, because then I just don't know what the market's telling me.
Now, one thing that comes to mind, because I've done a fair amount of direct mail marketing in my time as well, and every little thing matters, right? The color of the envelope, the red writing on the envelope, right?
Right.
The copywriting. Is it handwritten? Is it typed? Is it a machine that looks like it's writing, but like one of those
those bots,
robot things, which I have a couple of friends here in the Bay, realtor friends, who spent like $250,000 on one of those machines to handwrite these, handwrite all these things. So how much artistry, because you can talk about science, right? The tracking and everything, but there's an art to it too. How much time have you spent perfecting that? Is it perfected, or are you continually A/B testing all of those things too? And how does that translate to the metrics that we just discussed as well? Because those also impact the response rate.
Yeah. And so because of the market that we're in, it's so non-competitive. I don't have to do those things that you traditionally have to do in very competitive markets, because you have to, when there's a million realtors chasing one deal, right? You need to actually do those things to make yourself stand out. And you have to A/B test a handwritten envelope versus a printed envelope, window versus non-window, the copy, the color, yellow letters. And there's different marketing tactics in hyper competitive, what I would call, red markets. But if you're in a blue market where there's little to no competition, you don't have to do any of those things.
Interesting.
So imagine going on HGTV in the DIY network and seeing Flip This Land. No one's watching it, Danny. You couldn't think of a boring real estate niche. The before picture is raw land. The after picture is raw land. And so because of that, if you go to a RIA meeting, like a real estate investment association meeting, 100 people in the room, 99 of them are house flippers, landlords, and wholesalers. You and I would be the only land guys there. So you're talking about this very inefficient market. It's very boring. And no one's impressed, right? I go to a real estate conference and someone tells me, oh yeah, I'm managing 1,000 doors. That's cool. That's impressive in commercial real estate. Yeah. But, I tell people I own raw land, their eyes glaze over. So it's just not something that people want to do.
Yeah. Well, no, I mean, it's definitely not sexy, but, something that I've always preached, especially kind of early on in my career, where there was a lot of, speculative buying here in the Bay Area. I'd always ask my investors, do you want to be sexy or do you want to be rich? Because kind of get to choose, but can't be both.
Yeah, exactly. So this is like the most boring, least sexy real estate niche. And so there's not that many people in it. When you have the size of the market we have, I mean, this market's massive. So you're talking about billions of acres of raw land available and, no hedge funds, no private equity groups. There's no big money in it. So you get the small little boring cottage industry that it's just very non-competitive.
I just multiplied 1,300 notes times 250. It sounds pretty sexy to me, man.
Yeah, no, I mean, the cash flow is sexy for sure.
That's incredible. And with no employees too. That is lean and mean. That is absolutely lean and mean. All right. So let's see. For me, I think just like selfishly, right? Would love to know, how long did it take you, like from the time that you started, how long did it take you to clear like your first 10K a month? Right. So like, cause like, I feel like that's kind of the first.
Yeah. I mean, I kind of came out hot.
And then probably 25 and then 1,500.
I came out hot. I made $5 million on one deal. And so,
oh, wow.
My trajectory was a little different.
Oh, wow.
But looking back, I wish I did it differently. Because I wish I owned finance. I just made cash, right? I didn't know any better. So, because remember, I'm starting in 2001 full time. I mean, think of that market between 2001 and 2006. It was a super hot market. And I found a deal in Nevada where Morgan Stanley had purchased, hundreds of thousands of acres from the railroad. And then Morgan Stanley sold off their package to a public company that only wanted the mineral rights. So I found this public company that had all this land that they didn't want. They just wanted the mineral rights. So I negotiated a deal like, hey, I'll buy these lots for $30 an acre from you. And these sections, 640 acre sections. And they're like, great. And then I subdivided them into 40 acre parcels. And I'm selling them for $500 an acre. And so over that time period, I just made a lot of money in cash, but it wasn't until 2007 I'm like, hey, this is a hustle. And then I started selling on owner financing, and I'd say it probably took about 12 months to get my first 10 grand a month based on that.
That's awesome, man. Have you watched the show Landman on Paramount?
Love Landman. Billy Bob Thornton is so good. Tyler Sheridan's, or is it Taylor Sheridan? Tyler Sheridan? Taylor Sheridan? The Yellowstone guy. He's so good too.
Oh yeah, 100%. No, he's super talented. They've got all sorts of shows now. He's, what is it? He's got, what's the one? Oh geez. Lioness. And he's got Tulsa
great.
King.
Tulsa King is great.
Oh man. Yeah, no, he's just hit after hit.
Sicario was great.
I haven't seen that one. What's Sicario?
Yeah, that's older movie. It's with Emily Blunt, Benicio del Toro, and he
directed it. Oh,
no,
wow!
I think he wrote it.
You wrote it. Okay, that's cool. I'll have to check that one out. Sicario. Yeah. Everything Taylor Sheridan touches turns to gold. No, well, the reason that I asked that is because I feel like the setup for the next season, the Billy Bob's son is going to do pretty much exactly what you just said, right? Which is
right. So he's going to these ranchers and he's making a win-win deal with them.
Yeah. It's really cool, man. That's really, really cool. Yeah. I mean, this, and there's so many ways to play the game. That's why I was asking, like, because, I feel like, mineral rights, that's definitely one of the things, developing or adding value to raw land via, entitlements and all that stuff. That's another way to add value. But it sounds like now your main focus is on the buy and then find a way to lower the barrier to entry for the next guy, but have them continually just pay you over a longer period of time. And I'm reading 60 to 84 months. So that's like, what, 5 to 7 year terms
5 to 7
typically.
Years, right? Exactly.
On a
note. Yeah. I mean, we got some of these notes that are bigger, 15, 30-year notes, but on
Sure.
average, 5 to 7.
Yeah.
And so,
Yeah.
the amount of capital you need to start in this is very small. I mean, it's really the gateway drug to doing bigger real estate deals.
Yeah. I love that.
Yeah.
Have you ventured outside of the land space at all? Have you done any deals outside of land?
I'm an inch wide and a mile deep. I remember in 2005 with a buddy, I did a house flip, and I'm driving up to the house every other day, and I'm meeting the contractors, and I'm watering the plants, and I'm looking at my time, and I'm like, man, I could be doing a land deal.
Yeah.
This is terrible. And, we made good money on it, but like when I factored my time and the yield, I'm like, this isn't that great.
Yeah. Well, this sounds like a perfect kind of opportunity for, even someone who's super young that wants to get into real estate investing. I mean, dude, I get kids, man. I get literal children that reach out to me asking me how to get started in real estate investing. And the truth is like, it really depends on where you live. But with the single family sector, the way that it's moved the last, 5-ish years or so, and with the way interest rates have behaved over the last couple of years, the margins on single family investments don't really make a ton of sense in most areas anymore, No. And so something like what you're doing right now, I mean, it makes a lot of sense because the margins are still there. Like the numbers that you're giving they're really good numbers.
Yeah. And again, it's just an inefficient market. You can't go on Zillow and find the value of the raw land. It's sort of the best thing about the business and the worst thing about the business is you've got to make the market.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. Now, you talked about your own buyer list, right? So how did you go about cultivating that or creating that buyer list? What have you done to build that?
Every time I get a lead, I just ask them, hey, is it okay if I put you on my VIP list and send you the deal of the week and give you, various discounts? And they're like, sure. And that's all I do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, when you say lead, are you talking like seller leads, like people that are like would like to sell to you, or because every seller's a buyer, right?
Yeah. No, it's buyers. So,
okay.
Yeah.
I see. So when you're advertising the land, right?
Right.
Yeah. So you don't have a real estate broker then that you're working with. You're doing all these deals. You're basically seller.
Bigger deals we'll work with a real estate broker, but otherwise it's for sale by owner.
Okay. Gotcha. So you're doing a lot of FSBO. It makes sense, right? Like, as an agent, if someone came to me with a $10,000 land deal, I'd say, go pound.
Exactly. Agents don't want it. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. It's just not worth the time. So it totally makes sense. And you're using all of these different platforms. You said Land Motto, Land Watch, Facebook Marketplace, using Craigslist.
I'm not driving traffic.
Yeah.
So I'm going to where the land buyers are.
Right. And then they're coming to you so any buyer lead that comes in, you're asking them those things. And I'm assuming this is all automated, right? Because with the number of listings that you have up at any given time, I'm assuming the lead flow is pretty substantial. You probably don't have the time to actually talk to all these folks, right?
Well, I personally don't. I mean, our team does a pretty good job of filtering.
Nice. Yeah. So you, like the VAs in the Philippines or whatever, are the leads coming into them primarily?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we got a marketing team, the sales team.
Yep.
Yeah.
That makes a lot of sense. Man, now I'm sure you've already thought about this, but how quickly are we going to be replacing those VAs with AI?
I think about it every day.
Yeah.
And I think that it's possible that AI replaces a lot of the customer support pieces of it, but it might just make us all more productive, like 10x more productive. So we still need the person.
Yeah.
But they're using AI as their intern. So 80% of the work's being done by the AI, but that other 20% that needs judgment and, other facets, right? I mean, business is relationships. And I just don't know if that's going to go away.
Yeah.
I might want to talk to a human being instead of an AI agent about that land. Now the AI agent might be great, and it might be phenomenal, right? But if I ask the AI agent, "Hey, do you have kids too?" and the AI agent, is like, "Well, I'm an AI agent," it might just be lacking something that we want to connect with. I mean, we're social animals. We're built for connection. I don't know. And if it does happen, let's say that, there are no jobs anymore. AI takes over. Well, it might be a new Renaissance period where we kind of go back to like that hunter-gatherer days, and we kind of just work a little and we play and rest most of the day and use AI to be as creative as we can. I really don't know. I'm not real dystopian about the future. I think it might be the best thing that's ever happened to humanity.
Oh, me too, dude. No, I think AI I think it's phenomenal. And the only reason I ask is because, there's all of these specifically, call center type AI technology that's being developed right now where, and I've been dude, as a sales guy, I think I've been pitched like maybe 10 products already.
Yeah.
Of different AI bots that you can train, and they will, effectively be your sales force, right? And to answer your question though, I mean, you could train the AI to beat Mark, so you could literally train.
I do have me.
Yeah.
So I have a clone.
You do.
I do. And it's been trained on all my podcasts and all my
so
training.
Cool, man. Yep.
And it, it's incredible, and it's really good, but it's still not me.
Yeah.
It looks like me. It sounds like me. It talks like me. It's incredible, but I'm tracking the engagement on it. People aren't using it like I thought they would.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I mean, it makes sense. I think we're still a ways away from like fully replacing, but enhancing for sure. I agree with you 100%.
Yeah.
It's enhanced every facet of my day-to-day business. So, Mark, we're coming up on time here. Want to be respectful of the time. You have a podcast, the Land Geek podcast. We'll link it down below. You also have a book, Dirt Rich, correct?
Yeah. So the Land Geek podcast, I've sunset. So
you have
okay. Podcast,
so
the best
no
passive
more,
income
no more
podcast.
podcasts.
So now it's the Art of Passive Income podcast.
Art of Passive Income, love it.
Yeah.
All right, Art of Passive Income. I'll have to jot that down. I had bad information.
Yeah, no worries.
Outdated information. All right, cool. So you've got the podcast. We'll link it down below. We've also got Dirt Rich, and I'm assuming for someone that wants to get started in land investing, would this be a good resource for them to kind of kickstart that journey? Yeah.
In fact, for the listeners, I'd love to offer it for free. They just pay shipping.
Nice.
And it talks about my story. It goes much deeper to the model than what you and I were able to talk about today. And then they can start taking action and see, does this resonate with me or not?
Yeah, no, I love that. That's awesome, man. So we'll go ahead and put that link down below. It's very generous of you. It's free except for, and then you just pay the shipping. So that's great, man. I really appreciate that. And gosh, I have you for a few more minutes. So I want to make sure that we maximize this time. If you had somebody here who was, let's say 18-year-old, right? They're deciding, you know what? I don't want to go college. I want to get into investing. What would you tell that person to do? Like over the next 5 years, like how could they get started quickly doing what you're doing?
Get a mentor. Find somebody who's already made all the mistakes, so you don't have to. Smart cut it. That's what I would say. If I could go back and do that, I would. It's just that when I started, there's no one doing it. It was just like we were all figuring it out together. The few land investors I knew, but if I could have had a mentor, and I got a business mentor about 7 years in, that changed everything. Before I just built a job for myself. I didn't know about systems, processes, and automation, and all that. So I would say if you're 18, find the person who's doing what you want to do and learn from them and go all in on that.
Love that. Yeah, I love that, man. Mark, you have been a treasure trove of knowledge today. But before I let you go, we're going to have you leave the audience with one final Gould nugget. Take it away.
My final Gould nugget is a quote by Zig Ziglar. So if you'll do for the next 3 to 5 years what other people won't do, you'll be able to do for the rest of your life what other people can't. But notice I didn't say 3 to 5 months. It's 3 to 5 years.
Yep.
And so often people want that instant gratification. It just takes longer than you think to really break through.
Love that, man. No, I think that's phenomenal advice. And yeah, it's the suffering is always longer than you want it to be, but it can be worth it, can it?
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, I'm writing another book about that, how to strive without suffering.
That.
So can you be like a duck, calm and serene above the surface, but paddling furiously below? So I'm working on that.
Dude, honestly, your demeanor today, man, you are cool, calm, and collected. So if there's, that's awesome. Yeah. I love that. I love that.
Thanks, brother. Well, listen, I got to jump, but thank you so much, Stanley.
Thanks for coming on, man. This is awesome.
Right.